unit impulse function, and then we'll go and we'll do some problems. Okay, so unit impulse function. So now how we can define this unit impulse function? So let us take, so there is an pulse which is an area which is minus epsilon by 2 to plus epsilon by 2, and this height it will be 1 over epsilon. Okay. Now this impulse function, which we can denote it as in the continuous time, so del of t. Now we can define this impulse function, so it is the area under this pulse, so which will be equal to 1. So that is, so if I take minus epsilon by 2 to plus epsilon by 2, this del of t into dt, so that will be equal to 1. So this is what the impulse function. Now whenever this epsilon, so it is the height it is decreasing, the width will go on increasing. Okay. So this is what the unit impulse function. So the functionality, whenever this height it is decreasing, the width will go on increasing. And the definition, so it will be like this. So it is minus epsilon by 2 to plus epsilon by 2 del of t into dt, which is equal to 1. So it is a, so this function will be used to in many systems to find out the properties of the system. That is, what happens whenever we give a sudden pulse. Okay. So if we have some system like this, so if I give the input del of t, so impulse kind of thing, so what is my output, what is the response of this system in those kind of situations. So in order to measure these properties of the system, so this impulse function will be used. Okay. And if you have some signal x of t, so which is defined from minus infinity to plus infinity, and if I multiply that x of t signal with this impulse function, okay, so this will give always the signal x of 0. That is, this function is the one, so the impulse function del of t into dt, that will give 1 only at t equal to 0, because this is defined at origin. So this value of epsilon, it may be very small, so that area it will be very small. So that's why in many times we will denote impulse simply like this instead of always denoting like this. So we'll define or we'll define those or we'll represent the impulse functions like this at t equal to 0 if it is del of t. So now at t equal to 0 only this impulse function will be 1. So that's why, so whatever the value of the signal or whatever the limit of the signal, so it will give value only at x equal to 0 if you multiply this function with, so any signal, that is del of t with any signal, it will give the value at x equal to, that is at t equal to 0. Okay. So now if you take some shifted version, let us take something like t minus t naught. So this t itself I will shift the signal to t naught. Okay. So this is, let us say this is del of t minus t naught. Now if I multiply this signal with x of t, so this is del of t minus t naught into dt. So then this will give the value at the value t naught, because the impulse function value which will be 1 only at t equal to t naught. So whenever t becomes equal to t naught, so this will give the value, the function will give the value at time t equal to t naught. So this is how whenever we apply the signal, this impulse function to any signal, so correspondingly it will give the signal value at particular, so time, so where we are defining the impulse. Okay. So now what are these properties of impulse? So let's see what are the properties of this impulse. So now if we have the scaled version of this time, that is del of at. So if I multiply some scaling factor, so then what will be the, so the resultant of this, it is nothing but, so 1 over magnitude of this a into del of t. So this is one property. If we do the scaling of this time, so for this impulse function it will give 1 over a into del of t. So and also this, so impulse function we will call it as the even function. So that's why del of minus t which is equal to del of t. So that's why it is called as an even function. The impulse function is always an even function. And if I multiply x of t, any signal, with this del of t, it will give the value x of 0, because this del of t is 1 at t equal to 0. Now similarly, so if I multiply with del of t minus t naught, so which will give the signal value at t naught. So and then, so if I multiply the derivative of this impulse, that is, say for example minus infinity to plus infinity x of t, if I take the first derivative of this impulse function and multiply to any signal, so this will give, so negative of that first derivative of signal at x equal to 0. So this is what one more property. And also, so this del of t can be used to define the unit step function, that is, so the del of t will give the derivative of that u of t, or you can write d by dt of u of t, which will give the impulse function. Or we can say, so alternatively, if I want the unit impulse function, that is unit step function, so this will give the integrating minus infinity to t del of tau into d tau. If you integrate this impulse function, you will going to get the unit step function. So these are the some of the properties of the impulse. So most probably always we will do this function more. So whenever we multiplying with a t equal to 0 or some shifted version with any signal, so that corresponding signal value we need to so take. So most of the times these properties will going to use. So if you take an example, let us take which we have x of t, which is like this, okay, 0 1 2. Now so if I want to evaluate what is x of t into del of t minus 2, so what will happen? Now this function, it is only will give x of 2, okay. So this will give only at t equal to 2, it will become 1. So this del of t minus 2 will be 1 only at t equal to 2. So then what will happen? So it will give the function value x of 2. Now what is the x of 2 value? X of 2 will be having the, so let us say amplitude it is 2, it is 1 here. So then it will give an impulse which is value amplitude value 2 at t equal to 2. So this is what your x of t into del of t minus 2. So like this, any function or any signal, if you multiply it with this impulse function, it will give the corresponding value at particular, so whatever the value of the time specified, okay. So in those type of problems also it will, so it will be asked. So this one, so some basic operations, so multiplying this with impulse function, so finding out this expression, what is the value of this, so like that, so the problems will ask, so with respect to this unit impulse function, okay. So is it understood? Any doubt in this? Anybody, any doubt? Okay.
Sir,
So
at x of 1 we will get 1, no sir, there.
where?
At x of, yes sir, there 1.
Yeah, here.
Yes sir.
Yeah. So now since it is an impulse function, so let us take your x of t is this one, right? It will be like this. At 1 it is 1 and 2 it is 2, right? It is
Yes,
the x of t. Now what is our impulse function? So it is del of t minus 2. It is the value 1 only at t equal to 2. It is like this. Is it not? So this is your del of t minus 2.
T minus 2.
Okay. Now you multiply these two. What is the value? Only this impulse will going to get.
Yes sir.
Okay. So
Yes sir.
like this you need to slightly you need to see how the multiplication and the signal operations happens with this impulse. Even if you give some other like problem like this. So let us take something like this. Okay, so some other signal, say for example, now it is 1, 2, 3, okay, 0. Now if you have x of t into del of t, what you will going to get? What you will going to get for this particular problem? You will going to get 0, right? Because at 0 x of t is 0, because this function will go to 1 only at t equal to 0, right? Is it not? Is it understood or not? Hello? Is it understood? Rishabh?
Think, sir. This one.
Yeah. Understood or not?
No, sir. Not getting, sir.
See here x of t is there. The value of x of t at t equal to 0 is 0, right?
Yeah.
But
sir.
the function, impulse function will be 1 only at t equal to 0 as per this del of t.
Okay, sir.
So now if you multiply this 1 into 0, what is the value?
0. Oh, t at starting position we consider no, sir. So it's
Yeah,
0.
because del of t is 1 only at t equal to 0.
Yes, sir.
Other values are 0. Now
Okay,
the
sir.
function value, whatever you multiply other values, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3.
Sir.
So only function x of 0 it will come, but x of 0 is 0.
Okay, sir.
So it
Yes, sir.
will
Got
be
it.
0.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So like this kind of problems it will ask. Okay. So now, so after this impulse function, we will go to now the properties of the system. Okay. And one problem it will come definitely. So with these properties of systems, so I need to work more to get this problem clear. So now, so what is meant by actually the system? So now we have studied signal, classification of signal, some basic operations on the signal and all. Okay. So now what is system? Okay. So let us assume this is a system. Okay. And this system, sometimes it will be denoted as H, and sometimes some textbooks it will refer it as T. So now we will stick on to the T, the system which we can represent. So T. Now if I give some input x of t, and you will get the output y of t. Okay. So that means a system can be defined as it is an entity which will manipulate or it will process some input signal which is given to it. So that is what which is called as system. Okay. So it is an entity which manipulates or it will process the signal, so which is given to the input to the system. Okay. So that is what the definition will call it as. So just it is an entity which will process or manipulates the signal. Okay. So now if you come to the different kinds of systems, like we have some control systems, feedback systems, analog digital communication system, many systems are there. So all these systems which is having some properties. Okay. So what are all those properties? So first one, which is having memory or memoryless system. Okay. So the first one is either the system which is having memory or memoryless. How we can say whether the system is memory or memoryless? So if, say for example, if the output of the system, okay, so if the output of the system depends only the present value of the input. Okay. So if output of the system depends only present value, okay, present value of input, then that system it is called as memoryless system. So this is very important. So it is memoryless, only the output depends on the present value of the input. So then it is called as memoryless system. Now if it is depends on the past value or future value, then we'll obviously it will call it as it is having a memory. Okay. So this is one type of system. So this is one property of the system, memory or memoryless. So whenever it is said as memoryless, only it depends, the output of the system depends on the only the present value of the input. Okay, that is what memory or memoryless system. Now the second property is causal or non-causal, causal or non-causal system. Now, so in this case what will happen, the output of system, okay, depends only on present or past values of input. Okay, so this is very important, present or past value of the input, then the system is said to be the causal system. Okay, so the system is said to be causal system. So if it depends on the future values, then it is a non-causal system. Okay, so that is what important here. So it depends only, the output depends only, output of the system depends only on the present or past values of the input signal, then we can say that it is a causal system. Okay, so now any problem? I think somebody has. Okay, so we will finish by 5, that is not a problem. Okay, so this is what the causal or non-causal system. So now you might have informed earlier, so regarding the quiz, I told from 5 to 6, 5 to 5:30. Now we are telling that the class is there at 5 to 6. Yashulakshmi, he's there, she is there. Hello. Yashulakshmi. Hello. Okay, I have already posted, so you write the quiz. I am not responsible for that. You might have told earlier, not now. Okay. Okay, so we'll continue. I have actually scheduled at 5, so all of you write the quiz at 5. Okay. Okay, so now, so this is what the causal system. Whenever the output depends only on the present or past values of the input signal, it is said to be a causal system. So now, next one is the linear or non-linear system. Linearity we will say, so that is linear or non-linear system. Okay, so now this linear, if the system, if we want to say the system is linear, so then it should satisfy the two properties. One is homogeneity or scaling property, So then second one is additivity property. So now, so these two properties together we call it as the superposition property. Okay, so these two together we will call it as superposition property. If the system satisfies this superposition property, then we can call it as the system is linear. Now what is meant by homogeneity property? Let's say if we have the system, okay, so T, we have the input x of t and output y of t. Okay, so now we can write y of t, which is nothing but so t of x of t. So the system operator t operates on this x of t. Okay, so now if we have the input which I will scale, so I will give in x1 of t, which is nothing but a into x of t. I will scale this signal and if I give it to the system. Okay, so then your output also should be scaled version of this one, that is a into, so if you just put it like the t of a into x of t, okay. So this we can write it as, this is a constant value, a is constant value, a into t of x of t. So this should come. So this is what the scaled version. The input is scaled by the value a, the output is also scaled by the value a. So then, so this property is called as scaling property or homogeneity property, okay. Now similarly, additivity property, if I give two signals, so let us take, so there is a system, if I give two signal x1 of t and y1 of t, sorry, x2 of t, okay, x2 of t, okay. Now, so individually if I have, so if individually if I give this is x1 of t, the corresponding output will be y1 of t, and individually if I give the x2 of t and the corresponding output is y2 of t, then so additivity property means the y of t, so whatever we will get if the signal x1 of t and x2 of t it is giving to the system, so simultaneously if I get the output y1 of t plus y2 of t, okay. So if I get the output which is addition of these two individual outputs, so then we can call it as, so the system possesses additivity property, okay. So now the system which satisfy both of these two properties, will set it as system is linear, okay. System that satisfies both, so scaling or homogeneity and additivity property, so is said to be linear, okay. So that is what the linear system. If any one of these properties doesn't satisfy, then we will call it as system is non-linear, okay. So that is what the linear and non-linear system, okay. So now next property is the invertible system or invertible property or invertible system, okay. So now if I give the input x of t to some system, okay, some t, so now I will get the y of t. Now if I this output, if I send it to the inverse of this system, okay, so whatever t is there, if I send it this to inverse of this system, and if I able to recover my original signal x of t, then we can say the t inverse is the inverse of this system t, okay. So then if you just multiply these two system functions t into t inverse, we will going to get I, so which is called as identity operator, okay, identity operator. So then the system t is said to be, or t inverse is said to be inverse of this system t, then we have to recover the input signal. So from this the system which is t inverse, which if we can recover the original x of t, then we can say that t inverse is the inverse of the system t, okay. So this is invertible system. So next one is, so the time invariant. So this is also very important property, time invariant, okay. So what is meant by time invariant? So is if I want to say some system is to be time invariant, if we put the time delay or time advance, that is the left side or right side shift if I do, okay. So either the advance or delay if I do for the input signal, the same amount of shift should be happen at the output side. So then we can say that the system is time invariant, otherwise the system is time variant. So that means, so let us take, so if I give the input x of t, okay, to the system t, and if it produces y of t, now if I put x of t minus t naught, okay, I am just shifting the signal by amount of t naught, then the output also shift by the same amount, then this system t is said to be time invariant, otherwise it will be time variant system, okay. So now we can say this y of t, so for this one y of t, which we can say t of x of t, Okay. Now if I substitute that input, that is t of x of t minus t naught, so then we can, so this operator we can take it out, the shift amount, whatever the shift amount, we can write it as s power t naught into t of x of t. So like this, the shift operator we can take out like the shift property which we have seen in Z transform. In the similar way we can take out and we can write the output of the system. So if we shift the signal or advance the signal or delay the signal at the input side, if the output is also delayed by the same amount or advanced by the same amount, then we can say the system is time invariant. Otherwise the system is time variant. So this is what time invariant property. Okay. So now similarly, so the last one, which is actually the stable system, when we can call it as the system is stable. So this is the property, so important property of the system. Now if we have the, so y of t which is equal to t of x of t, some operator system t. Now if I want to say the y of t, the output y of t is stable system, okay, or if I want to say the system t is stable, then the output y of t is like y of t should satisfy the condition, that is y of t, the magnitude of y of t if I say, so if I take that should be some the bounded value, sorry this is y of my. So this output should get some bounded value for the bounded input value, that is mx. Then we can say the system is whatever the system t which operates on this x of t, so that will be a stable system. That means, so for every bounded input, so this is some value, that is the finite value. So if the input which is having the finite value, then if the output also produces some finite value, then we can say the system is stable system. If it produces infinite value, then we cannot say the system is stable. Okay. So in order to say that the operator or system t is stable, then it should satisfy these two conditions. For the input, so bounded input which is bounded between the input value x infinity and this value, so then we can say this is a bounded input and this is the bounded output. So for bounded input, so the output should also bounded output. So that's why, so this system is also called as BIBO stable. What is BIBO stable? For bounded input there is a stable bounded output, so that's why it is called as BIBO stable system. If it is satisfy, the system satisfy this condition, then we will call it as this one BIBO stable system. Okay. So what are all the properties which we have discussed? So first one is memory or memoryless. Okay. So then we can have causal or non-causal. Okay. So then it is linear or non-linear, and then we have discussed invertible system, and we have time variant or time invariant. Okay. So finally we have the stable system. So these are all the properties which we have discussed. Okay. So is it understood? Any doubt in this? So then we will go to one problem and we will see how we can say whether the given system is stable or all these things, how to check this one. Okay. Any doubt in this?
Okay. No doubt, sir.
Linearity, homogeneity, and scaling property if it obeys, and additive if it does not obey, means will we call the system as linear or non-linear, sir?
Non-linear. It should satisfy both the properties, that is scaling property, additivity property.
Oh.
Only if it is satisfy scaling or if it satisfy only additivity, we cannot say it is linear. It should satisfy both the things, both additivity as well as scaling.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now let us take this problem and we'll try to do that whether system is, what are the properties it is asked for to find out. Okay. Okay, so consider the system, this one, this is the input x of t and then multiplied with cos omega ct, and then you are getting output y of t which is given as x of t into cos of omega ct. So this is the system which is given. Now determine, so determine whether the system is memoryless. So determine whether the system is memoryless, then causal, then linear, then time invariant, and whether it is a stable. So we need to find out all these properties for this system. Now we have the output which is given. Now x of t, so which is given to the system. So let us take this as a system. Okay. So this is like operator t like this. Okay. So now if I give the input to this system, y of t which is producing. Okay. Now y of t which is equal to t of x of t which is equal to x of t into cos of omega ct. Okay. So now we have to see whether it is a memoryless or not. So how to find out whether it is a memoryless? Just see whether the output depends only on the present value. Is it present value? Because yes, whenever we give t value, so it will produce the output, otherwise it won't. So it is depending upon only the present value. So that's why the given system is memoryless. Okay. So now the given system is, it is memoryless. So now you can see whether it is a causal or non-causal. Is it depends on any future value of the input? The output, is it depends on any future value of the output? Future value means it is the advanced version, that is x plus of or x t plus 2 like that, t plus 1 like that. So it is not depending upon any future values. Okay. So since it is depending on only present value, so it is the system, it is said to be a causal system. Okay. Now, so coming to the linear, now we need to check both the additivity property as well as the homogeneity property or scaling property. Now let us take, now I will scale the input. Okay. So now y of t which is equal to t of x of t, right. Now I will scale this input, that is t of a into x of t. Okay. So wherever x of t is there, I will put a into x of t. Now what is the output of this one, which is nothing but a into x of t into cos of omega ct. So now this one we can write it as the output whatever it is there, y of t. So that is whatever the output which is producing after scaling, which is nothing but a into the scaled version of the input. Okay. So that's why the system is possessing scaling property. Let us take this one as y1 of t after scaling. So this y1 of t which is nothing but a into y of t. So which is a scaled version of our output system. So then we can say that this system obeys scaling property. Okay. So now we will check for the additivity property next. So now for the additivity property, now we let us take the input whatever x of t is given, the t and y of t which is nothing but x of t into cos omega ct, and your y of t which is nothing but the system operator x of t. Now if the x1 of t, so if it is produces y1 of t, and if x2 of t, if it is produces y2 of t. Okay. So then, so if I combine these two things, so x1 of t plus x2 of t So if it is given to the input, that is input of the system, the output y of t should be addition of these individual outputs, that is y1 of t plus y2 of t. So now let us do that one. So let us take this equation y of t which is equal to t of x of t. Now I will change y1 of t. So I am changing this x1 of t plus x2 of t. So let us take this something like yz of t, because here x1 of t producing y1 of t, x2 of t producing y2 of t. That is why I will take some other notation yz of t. So now, if I operate on this, so now what is the output? Wherever x of t is there, I need to replace x1 of t and x2 of t. So that will give, so x1 of t into, or x1 of t into x2 of t into cos omega ct. So this will give x1 of t into cos omega ct plus x2 of t into cos omega ct. So now shall we write this one as y1 of t and this one as y2 of t, because so x1 of t, so into cos omega ct, that will be equal to y1 of t, x2 of t into cos omega ct, that will give y2 of t. So this will be, so the yz of t output, which is nothing but it addition of individual outputs. So that is what we require. Whenever we give individual output, it should produce the individual outputs. So that is what it is happening here. So the system is possess the additivity property. Now the system satisfy both the properties. Okay, so additivity property as well as the scaling property, then we can say the system is linear. Okay, system satisfies both the scaling and additivity. Then we can say that system is linear. Is it understood? In this any doubt? Here it is any doubt in this one, and also scaling. So if you have any doubt, you can ask. So this is how we can find out whether it is system is linear or not. Now next one, we need to find out whether the system is stable or not, and also time invariant. Okay. So now, time invariant, how to find out time invariant? For any shift in the input, the corresponding output also should be shifted. Okay. So now how to find out time invariant? So now we have the y of t, which is equal to t of x of t, which is nothing but x of t into cos of omega ct. Now what will happen? I will shift the x of t input signal, I will shift the input signal x of t. Okay. Now I will take that as y1 of t. I will just shift only the input signal x1 of t or x of t minus t naught. Let us take x of t minus t naught. Only I will shift the input. So what will happen? The output will be x of t minus t naught into cos omega ct. Now the correspondingly I will shift the output, that is let us take y2 of t, which is nothing but y of t minus t naught. That is wherever the output t is there, so that correspondingly it should change at the input side. That is, so this will give x of t minus t naught into cos omega c into t minus t naught. Okay. So whenever I shift the input signal, here only the input is shifted. Whenever I shift the output value, so that is t by t naught. So then wherever t is there in the complete system, it should be changed to t minus t naught. Now compare this 1 and 2. Okay. So if y1 of t is equal to y2 of t, then we can say that system is time invariant. Now in our case, y1 of t is not equal to y2 of t, we can say the system is not time invariant or it is a time variant. System is not time invariant. Okay. So, this is how we can find out the time invariant property. So, now finally, we have to see the stable system, whether stability the system is stable or not. Okay. So, now we have the y of t, so which is equal to x of t into cos omega c t. So, now we can see here the cos omega c t, if I take the magnitude of this one either plus 1 minus 1. So, this will be bounded only between the value 1, that is minus 1 to plus 1. For any angle you can take, it is bounded between minus 1 to plus 1. If I take the magnitude, so it is whether it is less than or equal to 1, that is this is bounded for the value 1. Now, if my x of t, okay, so if the x of t is bounded value, that is for some finite value, then my y of t is also, it will give the finite value. So, then we can say that the given system, whatever the given system is stable. Okay. If x of t is so stable, or if x of t is a finite value, so then we can say that the system is stable, otherwise the system is not stable. Now, we will assume that, so x of t is finite, so the system is stable. System is stable only if x of t it is less than or equal to mx. So, this may be mx will be some finite value. Okay. So, this is what the system stability. Is it understood? Any doubt? All these properties? Anybody any doubt? Hello, Pramod, understood?
Yes, sir, got it, sir.
Rishabh, Harini,
Yes, sir.
any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Preksha, so now try to do this one more problem and we will going to get, or I will stop here because you have the quiz at 5 o'clock. I will stop here. So, but I will give these properties in the test also. Up to this properties of the system, I will going to give unit 1 for the test. Okay. So, you try to practice more. So, if you do not get any problem, just you ask me, I will just get it done with the solution. Okay. So, we will stop here and you write the quiz at 5 o'clock and submit within the time 5:30. Okay. Okay. So, we will stop here.